For those that are completely unaware, I used to own a YouTube channel called Manga Explain, where, as the title explains, I explain Japanese manga because I like it. Now, the reason why you haven't heard of it is because Square Enix, the video game company, in collaboration with some of its buddies, beat me over the head with 30 or so copyright strikes, so it doesn't exist anymore. But I'm going to upload this video anyway because I highly doubt Marvel will sue me. Now, as of recently, Marvel Comics has been pushing out these, let's say, strange books, like Arrow and Swordmaster, which is written by Greg Pak and another unknown anonymous author named Shinzu, which is actually a food. Now, for those that don't know, the current editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics, C.B. Cebulski, used to pretend to be an Asian writer named Akira Yoshida, for reasons that I can't explain because I don't know what the man's motivation was or what he was thinking about, but perhaps the man wanted to be more important than he actually was. Therefore, from this, we can draw from this conclusion or make an assumption that Shinzu is probably not even a Japanese author, and if this person is real and is not secretly an American hiding under some type of Japanese pseudonym, he's still not the best of writers, because both of those series are dog shit, and the art is terrible. Now, I don't understand why, as of this moment, I'm not completely aware why Marvel isn't advertising this book in the West, maybe because it's Eastern or Japanese exclusive. Spider-Man Red Fake is pretty intriguing as a Spider-Man story, and we don't know how long it'll last or how long it'll be going for, but I hope it stays for quite a while. Now, Usakawa Yusuke is the author and writer of this series, and is most likely, in my opinion, known for writing Green Worlds, Six Bullets, and Poetry of Ran, which are also series you wouldn't have heard of because this author is relatively low profile, but draws spectacularly amazing art. And as of this moment, he's pretty much writing epitome Spider-Man storytelling content. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, the origin of Spider-Man is pretty self-explanatory, and we all know at this point Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter Parker was bitten by a spider, Uncle Ben met the bottom of a barrel of a gun, he felt guilty and became Spider-Man because he couldn't save Uncle Ben, so he made it his responsibility to save everyone else because with great power comes great responsibility, thus he's obligated to help because his character is defined by guilt. But here's the plot twist. Peter Parker is not Spider-Man in this book, nor is Tokiyaki Yamashiro, who is officially the Japanese Spider-Man, but it's a wholly new character named Yu Amina. And the most interesting aspect about this story and this character is that he has no powers whatsoever, and he's just a normal guy. But reiterating once again, Peter Parker does exist in this universe, and for whatever reason, he's just in Japanese or New York or whatever the hell this story takes place and can speak Japanese because that's what he's doing in this book. But as the story is switching perspectives or point of views of you, we immediately discover this character is an audience proxy and is just a standard run-of-the-mill lead protagonist. He's a social invalid, he's a social outcast, everyone he knows treats him like shit, and he conveniently idolizes Spider-Man because he is everything he wished he was. But to put icing on top of the cake, the author doubles down on the notion that the main character is a weak-ass pussy when he encounters this kid getting shook down and his teeth kicked in by these bullies and does jack shit about it, with the boy replying he never expected him to do anything to rectify the situation because he's a weak-ass pussy. But this is also where the story's plot kicks in and the main character finds Peter Parker's Spider-Man suit in the trash can in a very Spider-Man No More like pose written by Stan Lee, and this is the immediate assumption is Spider-Man quit being Spider-Man, but that's not entirely the case, and we'll come back to this plot point later. Meanwhile, as the story goes on, Yu takes a couple of photographs of him wearing the suit and clowning around. He discovers it's real and this is the real Spider-Man suit and bails out on the responsibility aspects of being Spider-Man, and like a promising young lad or a weak-ass pussy, wants to return it to him, or at least the trash can where he found it, because it'll carry a lot of baggage. But of course not before taking some more stupid pictures while in public, because that's the sensible thing to do. Now, this is where the story gets really good from my standpoint, because it displays the duality of escapism and realism of being Spider-Man. Spider-Man will always be cool, while his Yu persona, or who he really is, will always be a fucking nerd and a weak-ass pussy. Yu as a character is a loser, an outcast, and while Spider-Man is cool because Spider-Man is a persona persona, while Yu is pretending to be Spider-Man, everyone believes he's Spider-Man, without knowing he's the nerd. And this situation unfolds where some apartment buildings are on fire, and everyone is yelling at him to go do something because the apartments are on fire, but he can't because he's not Spider-Man, he is just some nerd in a Spider-Man costume that authentically looks like Spider-Man's costume because it is Spider-Man's costume. But he's not Spider-Man, but he does it anyway, despite being a weak-ass pussy who couldn't stop any bullies. He climbs up a burning building to rescue a kid, because while he's wearing the suit, he is free from all the fears and anxieties that ail him and will not compromise in the face of unreasonable odds, and he will fulfill the expectations that being Spider-Man requires because he's wearing the Spider-Man suit. And while he's wearing it, he is free from who he was, and he has become who he's always wished to be. Now, of course, due to the very fact that this character is a noob and he's a nub, everything doesn't go according to plan, and while in the process of trying to save the child, he tries to do some Spider-Man whip or some whip actions, and because gravity is a real thing, he destroys the ladder he tries to attach himself to and plummets to his death, only to be saved by the real heroes of this entire story, the firefighters, that get applauded and praised and bails before anyone can actually thank him because he's a social invalid. But skipping to a week later, the main character is fucked up and he's hurt because he's Spider-Man without any powers, meaning that he's more liable to die than Peter Parker. Because he's weaker, he's not infallible, he doesn't have regeneration abilities, and he's just squishy like everyone else in the world. But transitioning to elsewhere towards the sewer system, a man is walking in the sewers who assumably caused the fire, and it's revealed to be it's Peter Parker, and he's assumably become the new Venom. Now, the story is currently set up like this. Spider-Man did not have the Venom symbiote at the start of the story, meaning that Peter genuinely might have been completely venomized, while our new protagonist might have to be the permanent new Spider-Man, where he has to square off against Peter Parker Spider-Man, who is more experienced, has fought more people, and can pretty much tear him limb from limb. So I have no clue how the plot's gonna initially progress, without some Deus Ex Machina or some serious training montages. But this is something extremely interesting that I'm quite frankly into, which makes this story really enjoyable from my point of view. But as we're getting into the last little bits of information ending this introductory story arc, we discover another 5 days has passed and nobody has seen Spider-Man, and ultimately, for whatever reasons that I can't explain, this pisses off J. Jonah Jameson. I guess he can't push papers without bashing Spider-Man. I guess that's just the case, or he genuinely just misses him. But going back to our main protagonist, we are introduced into a character named MANGA-VERSE, who is a champion rock climber, while in addition to being a child prodigy, is the woman the main character has sexual fantasies about, because who wouldn't? She's completely out of his league, and while she's hopping into her car after doing a rock climbing session, 2 other men hop inside with her with guns who recently robbed the bank and tell her to slam it on the gas, and now it's up to the main character, who isn't Spider-Man, to be Spider-Man because the girl he wants to bone is in danger, and the world's probably gonna need a new Spider-Man when everyone discovers Peter Parker is the new Venom. But the problem is, you sucks at being Spider-Man, and that's the end of this introductory story arc for Spider-Man Red Fake. Overall, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's pretty damn good.